Hello, dear listener, and welcome to yet another episode of The Inforium, your mother's favorite podcast. I don't make up the jokes before I do them. Did you see, Martin? Did you see that somebody drew a comic of something you said in the previous
I did see that.
Inforium episode? That was great.
I did see that, and I appreciate it.
I wonder if I can find that. I should find that at some point in this episode and shout that person out. And if I forget, I'll do it in the next episode. But that gave me a good laugh. So anybody who wants to take Martin's ridiculous things he says, or mine, I guess, and turn them into comics, go for it, because that was very amusing. Somebody also drew a picture of the photo of myself and Matt Diavella doing like the Arnold Schwarzenegger like brofist handshake thing. And it was beautiful.
I don't know that I'm familiar with that maneuver, but I will trust you.
We'll find them at
Arnold
some point.
Schwarzenegger is from Jingle All the Way, and that is how I know him.
That is true. That is a true statement.
I'm pretty sure that is his primary movie that he is known for. I think so.
Put the cookie down. Anyway, welcome back to the Inforium. This is a show about productivity, self-development, and me and Martin talking to each other about things we're trying to get better at, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get better at a lot of things this year. Got a lot of ambitions starting in 2021.
Yeah, me too.
And this is actually the first episode that we are recording in 2021 because we were on the ball and recorded the last episode well in advance.
Yeah, we're responsible now.
Yeah.
It's this new thing.
And today we're going to talk about how you can stop hesitating and stop convincing yourself not to try new things that you want to do because of fear, because of hesitation, because of paralysis by analysis or by any other thing.
Yep.
But first, we got our project check-in. We always got to do that. And we didn't batch episodes this time, so that means we can actually do project check-in. And I think that actually kind of means we shouldn't batch episodes because then there's no reason to do...
You see, as long as we're doing them early, we don't need to batch them.
That's true. Yeah, there's very, very little friction to setting them up. I just throw the camera on the little mount behind my computer, turn on the Zoom call, and we're good to go, basically.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So
what have you been doing in the last...
Oh, no. I asked first. You have to go first.
Do I have to go first?
Yeah. I asked first.
Oh, man.
I got in there. Nose goes.
I didn't even review what I said in the last project check-in. I should probably like write it down so I can see like what I did and what I said I was going to do. But the biggest thing I'm working on right now is getting the new studio started. So I think it was Monday, the carpet people finally came and carpeted the basement, which is, it's beautiful, Martin.
Is it beautiful?
It is beautiful.
Like a rainbow carpet? Is it cool?
Maybe I'm a weirdo because I know some people who are like, I want all hardwood floors and everything needs to be white and whatever, but I like carpet. And I like, I don't know, dark tones and things like that. So I replaced the old fake wood laminate flooring in my basement with big fuzzy carpet, and it's great for the acoustics, number one. I mean, I'm going to have to do so much less work for sound treatment now that basically the entire floor is sound treatment. But also it just feels very good underfoot, and I'm a lot happier going down there. So the next thing to do is to paint the walls. And I had thought about hiring a painter, but I kind of want to get the life experience of having to paint and design and customize this space on my own. I think that would be useful and fun to learn. So I'm going to paint it.
You never painted something before? Like a room?
I have never painted.
Oh.
Other than like on a canvas in art class.
It's an experience. You know, it's the most fun thing I've ever done.
I have to imagine it's not actually that fun. But
I feel like it's one of the things that it's going to be like exhausting, but when you're done, you're going to look at it and feel a bit of pride. Like, look at what my movements have changed in the world.
And that's kind of the point, is there's like this idea of like the pride of home ownership. Well, I own a home now, so I think I need to start doing some of the things that generate that pride, even if they take up time. And even if I do have the money to hire somebody to do it. Like, I know if I hired somebody, they would come in, they would do a better job than I'm going to do. But I just had to ask myself, I'm like, where does that end? Like, how much do I hire out just so I can sit on a computer and like try to write videos?
That's
you know,
fair.
and it's not like painting is going to bring me some amazing insight that's going to let me write a video, but I have been thinking about this more general concept over the last few days, which is like creativity comes from combining many life experiences. And the problem with being a full-time creator is you can get locked into this cycle of, okay, make the next video, make the next video, make the next video. And I can do that, and I can pull insights by doing research and reading and things like that, but I want to do more than that. I want to pull insights from actual life experience. And right now the task set in front of me is turn that basement into the best studio that I can make.
Yeah, like if you get trapped making videos too often, you only could now make videos about what you learned making videos, and
Yeah.
at some point that starts to go a little bit like you run out of new stuff.
Exactly, right? And like even if I can make a ton of money doing it, I don't want to just be like a dude on the computer all the time. I've had this quote from Robert Heinlein at the bottom of my impossible list for many, many years, which I will read now. He said, a human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects. And I come back to that quote every once in a while.
I'm probably not going to butcher a hog, but that's not a bad list.
But maybe you should be able to.
I don't know if that's
yourself
necessarily useful for me.
If it was like a really angry warthog coming after you, coming after your family.
Well, does that necessarily mean that I need to eat it?
That's the only way to be sure.
Like that's the only. It might come back.
It might come back unless you eat it.
I mean, I guess if we're talking about a weird like zombie monster hog that I have to eat, then
the only way to ensure that a zombie hog doesn't come back is to absorb its power.
I guess that makes enough sense.
But yeah, that's kind of what I've been thinking about. Is like I don't want to let the fact that these flywheels I have in business can make money and can continue to grow income. I don't want them to let me become a one-trick pony. I want to do things. And I realize like I'm not happy just because I get more followers or get more views on a video or get more money. And really like the only thing that ever pushes me to want to increase those particular numbers is either seeing other people doing it and, dealing with that feeling of jealousy and comparison, which is so hard to kick. I think it's just a human thing. Or when there's like a need for it, which usually comes from like people on my team saying like, oh, I have a goal. I'm like, okay, well, let's think about how to increase income for that reason. But otherwise, I prioritize learning widely.
Yeah.
So
well,
all
maybe
one of your...
I was just going to say maybe one of your next videos is going to be like 3 things I learned watching paint dry. Huh?
That's
I'm
not
already
a bad
intrigued.
title.
I'm going to click
It's
it.
not a bad title. I'm still trying to figure out the title for my next video. I've been trying to approach video creation with a bit more rigor as it pertains to the titling process. I'm reading a book by a guy named George. I think it's George Lois. He was like a advertising man back in like the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even the 80s and 90s. And he just kind of like was hammering away at this point of like you have to find words that just conjure strong visuals, and that takes a long time. It takes a lot of digging. And I think that's what helped the last video that we did on perfectionism do well.
Trying to remember the title.
It's perfectionism is destroying your productivity, period. And then the thumbnail was all these crumpled up papers around like a blank sheet paper that I was writing on. It was evocative, and I think like sometimes I get caught up in the technicalities of making the video, and then I will leave the thumbnail and the title as an afterthought, which is just shooting myself in the foot. Because if people don't feel compelled to click it in the first place, they're never going to see all the technical artistry that goes into the actual video anyway.
Yeah, you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but you also can't read every book. So, I mean, I guess you probably should just judge books by their covers until given other evidence.
Yeah, I mean, we can say don't judge a book by its cover, and I think that's great advice that goes beyond the covers and extends to things like what other people say about a book and the reviews of it and all that. But the sad truth is people do judge books and videos and everything by their covers. And it's like you said, it's a necessary thing. There's a filtering mechanism that we all have to kind of use because there's just so much out there.
Yeah.
So as artists and marketers, we have to think about the cover very, very, very deeply. Otherwise, we're going to be relegated to obscurity and history's dustbin to make things needlessly dramatic.
Yeah.
But that's the main thing right now. Otherwise, part of my goal for January is to get videos written soon, get them filmed, so I can pass them off to Tony to edit, maybe to you to oversee a little bit, but you got your own projects. And then I can work on this basement project more often and start working more on Notion content.
Yeah.
I want to not half-ass two things at the same time, but whole-ass one thing and then whole-ass another thing.
That's the tricky part of life, Tom.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what have you been working on?
Well, a lot of what I've been thinking about is going to end up coming up in this episode, so my project check-in won't have to be too long. But in short, I got a new wide-angle lens for my camera. Pretty excited about that because it's the complete opposite of my macro lens. So my last 3 photos that I put up on Instagram were of clouds during sunset at various places around Denver. Mm-hmm. And that's just the complete opposite of looking at the eyeball of a damselfly. And I'm getting way out of my comfort zone here to try something that I initially didn't. I wasn't drawn to landscape or anything like that, but I want to push myself out there to see what I can make. And other than that, so I've been thinking about perfectionism still ever since working on the podcast and the video and reading the book. And I realized it's been holding me back from one of my favorite things, which is language learning. Because for the last, and you've been there for all of these, for the last 5 years, I keep having ideas for some cool language learning project or some cool thing I want to do. I'll build up all these great plans, and then eventually it will die because I've built up the pressure that I'm supposed to create the perfect resource that's going to kill the industry and solve everyone's questions forever. And language learning meant so much to me that I ruined it for myself. So I was thinking about how my photography thing, I did the 200 days in a row because I was just going to do quantity and allow that to create quality. And I realized I haven't been doing that for language learning lately. Well, that explains why I never get anything finished. I'm doing the exact opposite of how I should approach this. So then I decided, what if I just start writing about it again, but not have it to be like the giant, perfect, ultimate guide ever. And immediately I got inspired for so many things. So this is going to be a year of projects for me, hopefully.
Yeah.
And some of them are out of my comfort zone.
It's funny how the years get away from us, because I remember you talking about creating these ultimate language learning resources maybe as far back as college.
Yeah, ever since I stopped doing, I wanted to do it when I was doing my blog, obviously. But ever since stopping that, I've just been I have so much stuff I want to share.
Yeah, and your blog was, that was 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
It's 2021 now. And you don't realize it, but so much time can pass, and you've spent either every day or every time you've thought about the project thinking, oh, it's got to be perfect, so I need more time. I got to wait.
Yeah. So I want to do something. I want to do something different. I want to take away that pressure, and I want to assume that merely allowing myself to do it will bring me closer to a perfect resource than I would ever have gotten trying to make one outright.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the way I have to approach my Notion courses as well, because I am tempted to do the same thing. I want to say this is going to be the ultimate thing ever made. I'm going to answer every question, but it's yet somehow going to be concise, and it's going to be artistic somehow.
That's the big thing.
It's going to give people the information really quickly, but it's also going to have all the artistic touches and it's folly to start with that, because that doesn't give you an easy action to start with. Actually, I have a good personal experience kind of along these lines. So I've been developing a workflow on an iPad to do my research and my writing and reading and things like that. And I'm going to make a video on this. I'm waiting for the developer of one app to make a few updates that I've requested before I want to make the video. But basically, there's an app called Command for iPads and iPhones. It's a browser that lets you highlight text on any web page and keep those highlights there on the page. And then you can add notes to them. So it's almost like adding Kindle highlights to any web page. And there are Chrome plugins to do this on the desktop side. But I've not seen a plugin to do this on any like default stock iOS browser. But more importantly, and this doesn't exist on Chrome at all, I don't think, even on desktop, my highlights can get synced to Readwise, where I collect all of my little highlights and bookmarks and things like that. But the funny thing is, like, you can add notes to your highlights, right? So I'm going through this interview with Steve Jobs. I'm adding highlights every once in a while, adding a note every once in a while. And I find one little passage, and it just gives me this little tiny germ of a thought. And before I knew it, I wrote like a 1,200 word essay just in the note in the browser. And not only was it 1,200 words, but like there was kind of some like indignation behind my initial idea for the note. So like the writing was more inspired than I think a lot of my output has been lately. So it just got me thinking, like, you have to give yourself like just an easy way to slip in to doing the work. And when the starting goal is make this perfect game-changing thing, that doesn't let you slip into the work.
Yeah.
But when it's like, oh, let me just make this crappy little note in this browser highlight, it's not even where I actually do my writing, all of a sudden you find like, oh, hey, I've just done something that I actually care about. Or when you just think about something you want to make and you're like, let's just make it a little bit of a mess. Let's just work on one feature. Like, that's how you get things done.
I dropped the perfectionism angle and immediately got like 6 or 7 ideas I had to write down for stuff I could talk about because it didn't have to be the biggest. And that's part of what I want to talk about in this episode, since it's about trying new things. And some of the things I want to try are out of my normal comfort zone. So I've been trying to think. I've been fighting it. I have a lot of moments where I think maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't. This is dumb. It's too hard or scary or it won't work or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get to a point where I can actually try it before giving up on an idea.
So beyond diving into the language things and the landscape photography, do you have like other examples of new things that have come up that you're deciding to actually dive into?
Well, I have this idea that involves video and music that I want to create.
Okay.
That one I'm less scared of, but it does involve doing things involving video, which is usually, ironically, out of my comfort zone, given that we make videos.
I think it's
given that I'm
ironic.
in a video right now.
Yeah, like not only are you in the podcast videos, but you have been in YouTube videos on my channel.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But so there's the cool music thing I want to do. I'm not that scared about that because I like music and I'm more comfortable with that. But I wanted to include some sort of video thing so that it's like got a visually interesting background to the music that kind of complement each other maybe to create a more full experience. And then with the language stuff, I was thinking I want to start writing again, just to start writing out some of my thoughts, get the practice of writing, become better at it again, and become comfortable with sharing. And then I thought, well, the problem with writing is that if it's a blog post or something alone, not a lot of people are going to see it. So I will help fewer people if it is to help anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have experience turning that kind of a thing into a video script of sorts or an outline. So would it be worth the extra work to turn those things into something for videos and do language learning videos, something that I've been staunchly against forever because I don't care for video as a format as much. But that doesn't really apply because I also don't read articles anymore or listen to podcasts, and I still want to do those things.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking, should I try a new, way out of my comfort zone, YouTube style project for language learning? And that is, I've gone back and forth like every day because it scares me to think
Yeah.
about putting something up there. It's like there's the potential for a bigger audience, which is uncomfortable a little bit. There's the question of what to do in the video. There's 1,000 details that are involved in every video, and I'm like, should I solve all 1,000 of those ahead of time?
Mm-hmm.
I can't, so that would make me stop. And thus far, I've kind of settled on a minimum amount that I want to try.
A minimum
first.
amount of like things you will do, like consider.
So I'm not convinced yet that I will like it, and I need to find that out. And so what I want to do is basically film and like cut A-roll style stuff for one video, write an outline for a video for 2 more, and come up with topics for another 7. So a total of 10 things at various stages.
Okay.
Because how could I know if I like the video making process without actually doing it a couple of times?
Yeah.
And I know I've had friends and people talk about, hey, I've had this cool idea forever, and then I always just talk myself out of it. They never get to the point where they're trying it, the actual action of it, rather than the brainstorming part.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, I've had this like with making music. It was that always, and I think for me it was always like the perfectionism angle. It's like, oh, I got to make this perfect thing. I can't do it now. But I will tell you that for a video, I was not sure if I was going to like it when I started.
Really?
And and it was the same thing with podcasting.
I don't know that I knew that.
I kind of got pushed into podcasting. I wasn't sure if I was going to like doing it, but I knew I liked listening to podcasts. And I remember going to a conference where Pat Flynn, who founded Smart Passive Income, one of my favorite podcasts, he was saying, like, people who come up to me at conferences, even though the blog is bigger and gets many, many, many more visitors, almost always people who come up to me at conferences say, hey, I listen to the podcast. That's what they start with. And it's like, hey, I feel like I know you. I feel like I get to hang out with you every week. I love the podcast. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should try it because I do feel like that. I will listen to Smart Passive Income in the gym. It's almost like I knew Pat. So I wanted to try podcasting, and I didn't know if I would like it. And I was so scared to do it that I had to wait until you and Brandon and Quentin all left the apartment.
Yeah.
This was all back when we were roommates. And I closed the door, and I was like, if I would hear a little bump, I would be like, are they home? Oh, I can't do this with their home. So I was terrified to do it. And then for video, it was the same thing. It was like, I don't know if I'm going to like it, but I see other people adding video content to their blogs. Let me just try it just to see. Like, funny, I wasn't even planning on being a YouTuber when I started making YouTube videos. I chose YouTube as a hosting service. I was literally comparing YouTube to another one called Wistia that you have to pay for. And there's no algorithm, there's no recommendation engine. Like, people don't go to Wistia to find videos. It's literally just video hosting, and they would only ever see the videos on your blog. That was what I was intending to do. And I'm like, I'm going to go with YouTube just because it's cheaper. It's free. And I mean, that turned out to be a great decision, not only because the YouTube channel has ended up being like the biggest income source that we have, but also after I made the first video, I was like, oh, this is actually fun. And then I would watch YouTube videos, and I'm like, oh, let me try that. I'm going to see if I can do this thing that like JonTron did one of his videos. And it just sort of like created this little snowball that before I knew it, I was a YouTuber. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to build this big YouTube channel.
That's interesting that you weren't even sure that you were going to like continue doing videos at first. And I guess that's something that I want to try to recreate by forcing myself to create at least one thing that's mostly done, just so I've actually sat down. I've actually done the recording and seen what it feels like.
I like the idea you had to do 10 ideas. Like, so one, you said it was 1 completed video, 2 like recorded, and then 7 ideas.
I want to do 2 letter outlined like videos. Like, I style them. Outlined, I take what I want to write, outline it like a video, and then just a bunch of more topic ideas to prove to myself, yes, I can keep coming up with topics that I'm interested in, because I don't really want to force being bored about something that sounds terrible. I don't think I would enjoy that. But I want to see if it would be fun. And I can't see if it would be fun if I make it out to be this huge thing, and I don't want to commit to, because I could take this too far in the other direction. I could be like, hey, everybody, I'm starting a YouTube channel. It's going to be so cool. And here's my schedule. I'm going to publish one video a week for the next year. I can't promise that at all. I don't even know if I like it yet. But because it's an inherently kind of public thing, I have to devise tricky ways that allow me to try it
Yeah.
without, setting any expectations that I have to back out on.
Hey, let's take a quick break. So, this week's episode of our show is sponsored by Skillshare, where I actually just launched a brand new class called Productivity for Creatives. Here's the thing, most of the work that I do on a daily basis is creative in nature. I do research, I write scripts, I make videos, I record podcasts like this one. And for this kind of work, for creative work in general, it's not enough to just be productive. I want my work to be bold, to be concise, to be interesting, to be memorable. And to do that, I, as a creator, need to be constantly sharpening the sword, elevating my creative abilities. And if you're a creator, if you draw, if you write, if you make music, if you shoot videos, if you do anything creative, you need to do this as well if you want your work to stand out and be memorable. And this class is all about taking principles from productivity and applying it to creative work so you can elevate your work, so you can be more memorable. We talk about how to build a consistent daily practice, how to make yourself do work on a daily basis so you actually end up finding more inspiration and doing better work over time. We talk about automating, building templates, kind of getting rid of the friction, the most annoying parts of your work. We also talk about how to effectively work with other people. So if you're a creative person, I think you're going to get a lot out of this class. This isn't a general productivity class. I already have a couple of classes like that on Skillshare. This class is a bit more focused. It's for creators like me. And again, I think if you are a creator, you're going to get a ton out of this class, especially since you don't have to put a ton into it, given that Skillshare actually gives you a free trial when you go over to Skillshare.com/Inforium and join the platform. All you got to give is a bit of time. The class is about an hour and a bit of your attention. And when you're on that trial, you get access to the entire Skillshare platform, thousands of classes from tons of expert teachers, and again, 2 other classes from me. Even after the trial, Skillshare is a very affordable learning platform at less than $10 a month for their annual plans, but that free trial is great. And I think personally, not to pat myself on the back too much, but I did put a ton of work into this class, and I think that class is worth the price of admission alone. So once again, go over to Skillshare.com/Inforium, sign up, and if you want to make this year your year to elevate your creative game, I think taking that class that I created, Productivity for Creatives, is a great place to start. Thanks to Skillshare, as always, for sponsoring this episode and being a supporter of our show, and big thanks to our second sponsor this week, which is Brilliant. Brilliant is an excellent resource, an excellent platform for anybody who wants to boost their analytical capabilities and their ability to creatively solve tough problems. And as I've argued in videos before and on this very podcast, these are crucial skills to build now, especially as automation continues to advance and the world becomes more connected. Personally, I try to take time every single day to, get information from lots of different sources to solve problems, to build my analytical and creative abilities. And if you're particularly interested in math and science and computer science, then Brilliant is an excellent learning resource, an excellent well to drink from for this particular purpose. And that's because Brilliant doesn't focus on passive intaking of information. They get you right into the muck right away. They get you solving problems, whether you take their calculus class, whether you take their intro to number theory class, whether you take their gravitational physics, their classical mechanics, their intro to Python programming, even their new statistics course, whatever it is, you're immediately thrown into the concepts in an active way. You're asked to solve problems. And because they structure the courses this way, you stay more interested for longer when you're learning, and you also retain the material for longer periods of time, and you actually learn faster. Active learning is really the key to learning as fast as you possibly can without skipping over things, and Brilliant's team knows that. So if you want to try out Brilliant, you can actually do it for free over at brilliant.org/Inforium. And if you're one of the first 200 people to use that URL and sign up, you're going to get 20% off your annual premium subscription if you do decide to buy. Once again, thanks as always to Brilliant for sponsoring the show and being a huge supporter of it. And let's get back into it. Well, so your whole idea to develop 10 pieces of content to varying degrees of completion reminds me of something I've seen other people do, which is actually a great way to try something new and get over your fear of starting, which is to do a limited run. So there have been several podcasts that I listened to actually, where at the beginning of the show, they're like, hey, we're going to do this for 10 episodes. And then we'll see. where we go from there. But like our intention is to make a 10 episode run of this podcast, and then it might just be done. And I remember there's a podcast called The Adventure Zone, which is like the McElroy brothers doing, it's like a D&D podcast. It's hilarious. It's incredibly well written once you get further into the story. And at first they were just goofing around. Like they had no intention to make it this super long running series. They're just like, we're just going to try this out because people have said, hey, it'd be fun to see you guys do a D&D podcast. We have other things, so who knows what this is going to do. We don't know where it's going to go. Let's just try it out. And the pressure is so low when those are the expectations that you can get into it. And in your case, like you might make these 2 scripts, this 1 video, and get 7 ideas, and you might be like, hey, this is actually fun. Let's keep doing it. Or you might be like, I don't like it, in which case, like, it doesn't matter because you tried it.
Yeah, I know I don't like
do this.
It wouldn't be 10 years from now I make a video and I'm like, wait, I love this. What was I? Well, there went the 10 years I could have been doing this. That could happen. I wouldn't know. And the photography thing started as a 30-day challenge. That was essentially a limited daily run. I didn't think I was going to... Committing to 200 days would have been crazy. That's too much.
Yeah. I wonder how many of us are like, I'm going to be this thing, and then they go for it. Like, certainly some people do.
Like, I'm going to be the big, successful,
I'm gonna
specific...
Be,
like, they envision the end goal.
I'm going to be a pilot. I'm going to be a YouTuber. Like, I think some people do that.
Yeah.
But I think more people than we probably think just stumble into things.
I mean, that's why I'm on this right now. It's not like I sat down one day and said, I should be a podcaster.
Mm-hmm. I remember I read some stat back when I was in MIS. It was like over 70% of people who have IT jobs don't have any sort of like IT education. And when I worked in the IT center at on campus, like one of my bosses, one of the student managers, was an English major. And she was super knowledgeable. And I think she had just stumbled into the job and then, kept working hard at it and gotten really knowledgeable. But, not an MIS major, not a comp sci major.
It's interesting to see this sort of thing because I feel like career trajectories often try to convince you that you train and do one thing. And it tries to basically downplay or ignore the fact that you stumble into stuff. The training doesn't mean you can't be good at a bunch of other stuff. The amount of years you will likely live is large enough to do many things.
Yeah.
I think that's part of why I'm motivated this year. I mean, I'm about to turn 30, so I'm like, I could either get all existential about that or accept that I continue to age and start doing some of the things I'm unsure of before it becomes, like, less convenient. What if I end up having kids or something? Suddenly... having 18 projects at the same time, that ain't gonna fly.
Yeah.
That would be a terrible idea. So
I think these milestones they're great opportunities to reflect on what you may have been putting off and why, and like what's causing you to do that. What are the fears? It just makes it so much easier to reflect on those kinds of things. So that book I started reading, it's called Damn Good Advice. At least I think it's called Damn Good Advice. Yes, it is. By George Lois. He just had this this quote from a guy named Joseph Campbell, who was talking about another person's novel called Babbitt, and he said, like, remember the last line in Babbitt? I've never done a thing that I wanted to do in all my life. That's a man who never followed his bliss. And like I think a lot of us never do that. We always want to like do these things, and then we come up with some reason why we can't do it right now. Maybe like in your case, I think the language thing always seemed like too intimidating to start now because it had to be perfect.
Yeah.
But there's so many other things that get in the way. I know for me, it's like this fear of judgment. It's like sometimes I'll want to go out and like shoot stuff in the middle of the city, but I'm like, oh, people are going to look at me weird if I'm like walking around with a camera. And like that's a fear that I need to get over. Number one, because I know logically people don't really care.
They just want you not to be in their way, really.
No, yeah, nobody gives a crap. Everyone is living their own story. And if they look your way and they're like a little weirded out for a second, they're going to forget about that in 10 seconds because they got their own crap to deal with. It's funny. Like I'm always reminded of this or re-reminded of this whenever I'm in New York City, because New York is full of people just doing whatever the hell they want, walking down the sidewalk, singing, walking through the city in full costume, dancing down the street to their own music, whatever they want to do, and nobody cares. And there's like this vibe there, like everyone is on their own mission, and if you're not getting in the way of my mission, I don't care. Like, do whatever you want, run down the street singing. It's just another normal day for me. In fact, that's not the weirdest thing I've seen by a long shot since I woke up this morning. It's harder to feel that here in Denver, especially like when you're in the suburbs. Everything is just normal and
everybody's gonna see you run down the street singing. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, everyone's cloistered in their house, just being a typical like suburban family, going to the grocery store. But yeah, meanwhile, like in Manhattan, like someone's just like tap dancing down the sidewalk in a full tuxedo, and you're like, yep, that's another normal day here in New York City. It was funny when I was writing the song that I will have coming out this year. I was in New York City, and I just woke up and went for a walk around. It was Lower East Side, and I was just singing it to myself. I just didn't care because it's New York. Nobody cares. And I wish I could more easily adopt that mindset anywhere. And I guess I just should. Because, like, what do I have to lose? Basically nothing.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing you have to lose is, like, feeling kind of awkward for a little bit.
Yeah. You're arrested I feel like for expressing yourself now.
It sucks to feel awkward and embarrassed. I don't appreciate it. But that's such, like, a weak reason to look back and think of all the things you didn't do. It is a little bit of potential punishment. It may not be pleasant, but that's not good enough of a reason not to try things, I think. So I want to get out and start actually trying things now because I have a lot more motivation than before, and because I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah. I have another thing that I would suggest to anybody who frequently pushes off or rejects new ideas. Do whatever you can to surround yourself with people who say, yeah, you can do that. Because so many people, when presented with an idea that like you want to do or maybe that they should do, their first instinct is to say, well, here's why that wouldn't work. Or like, I don't think we could do that.
Immediate shutdown.
And I'm not going to be so extreme as to say like your mindset determines all of your outcome in life. Like this isn't some like Napoleon Hill, The Secret style podcast here, law of attraction. But I do think that determines a large percentage of your outcomes. Simply, number one, having the mindset that immediately says, yeah, we can do that. Let's go figure it out. And surrounding yourself with people who have that similar mindset.
Yeah, like it can't fix everything, but it's a way better start than immediately shutting everything down.
And when you're with people who are like that, when you surround yourself with people who are like that, and you're like that too, I think it creates like a snowball effect. Because if you're both positive thinkers and you're both like of the mindset of like, let's figure out how to do it, then you end up creating more ideas when you're bouncing that off each other. Whereas when you have somebody who just shuts it down, that's where it stops. Unless you're like, okay, I'm going to go off by myself and figure it out. But they're not helping you.
Yeah, I think I feel pretty good about that sort of a situation. I think I've actually gone out of my way this year to specifically enable and help in people's side projects, just because they were like, I'm thinking about this, but I'm not sure. And I'm like, I'll give a little bit of time just to give you some feedback. Or I made a pixel art logo for one of our friends, who I will not name because I don't know that they put their name on the blog. But it's it's just a little Pokemon thing, and I was like, this is gonna be cool. I'm just gonna make it. I just feel like making it. It would look good with a nice logo up there.
Yeah.
I'm going to support my friends' projects for no reason other than to do it.
Actually, like the example you gave me earlier this year, where you were just saying like, I've just been hopping on Discord with old friends and doing exactly what you just said. And I think that's a great specific example because right now we kind of can't hang out in person with a lot of people. But we have all these tools that allow us to talk with and connect with all sorts of people. And yeah, you've been using that to great advantage.
Yeah, whenever
Getting on
anybody
Discord,
mentions
talking to
like, man, that'd be kind of cool. I want to be the voice of like, it would be cool. And here's the first step that you could think about, because that's interesting. I heard about this tool, or I know somebody who works in Blender. Maybe they might know something. It's just, I want everybody to be excited about something. And maybe I need to let myself be excited about something now.
Yeah. I was honestly really excited to see like one of our other friends finally started like shooting some video,
Yeah.
getting into something. Like it was fun to see actual progress, you know. And I want to be there to encourage that. Like keep going, keep doing it. So, yeah, I think that's something that everyone should be doing.
Yeah, be wary of the voice that immediately says no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've seen it a lot, you know. And some people just like that's their general way of going through life. Is I see the path that is laid out in front of me. There's like I don't know, everything that's within the bowling lane bumpers, and if I want anything outside of it, well, I probably can't get it.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said earlier, I've been having, if I have an off day in the last couple weeks, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't try video. That's dumb. There's no reason to try that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a waste of my time or something. But then I'm like, no, you said you would do this amount first, even if you feel bad. So it's definitely a struggle to not kill the idea immediately.
Do you have a date in mind?
I do not, simply because I think this is going to be a busy month, and I want to make sure I know how. I'm hoping that I've at least tried and maybe recorded that first one, maybe even done the whole testing process with the 10 ideas this winter, before the end of February.
Okay.
But there are a lot of things I'm trying to do right now, so all I know is I want to at least have made significant progress on that first part, where I try to actually make one that's fleshed out and see what kind of video styles could work with it. I at least want to kind of see what that feels like within the next month or two. I don't want to wait. If I wait too long, it's going to get to when I'm likely moving, and I'll be like, oh, I don't have time to do this. Maybe next year. And there we go. I've snowballed it into some nonsense future.
And there's always something.
Yeah, I'm never going to not have an event in life.
If you let that happen, I have to move soon, I'm going to have to pack up my room, what's the point in setting up a studio right now? Like, there's always going to be something.
Yeah.
I don't remember who said this, but there was just somebody who was like, I see that the people who get the most done, like, typically do things right away.
Yeah, the more you procrastinate, like, the worse it feels because you're also a little bit guilty for not doing it yet, and it gets more and more foreboding.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I want to do it in the next month or two. I don't want to mess around. Start the
most
year
of the ideas
strong.
I have, like, I'll just sit on them. And then, a lot of times if I do sit on an idea, I'm more prone to perfectionism on it, because I'm like, oh, I'm coming back to that idea, like, that I said I didn't have time for. So now I have time for it. Oh, it better be great. Whereas it's like an idea I just had. I'm like, let's just do it. Let's just get into it, figure it out, make it something as best as I can make it, and move on to the next thing. But I find it very useful when I'm scared to do something to find a way to like commit myself to it. So signing up for vocal lessons was a really good example, because I was scared out of my mind to go into a room and like sing loudly in front of another human being. I did not want to do it, even though I love singing. So booking that first vocal lesson and having a specific date on my calendar was the thing that made me do it. I don't think I would have done it without that thing being booked in advance. It's actually kind of funny. Like, I think that's like a hack to make yourself do all kinds of stuff. Like with skiing this year, like because of the pandemic, the capacity is so much lower at all the resorts. There's like tons of distancing, and because of that, you have to reserve. Whereas in regular years, you could just get a pass, just go. And at first, I was like, this is going to be an annoyance, because you got to get on the website, you got to make a reservation. But actually, I feel like it's going to make me ski more. Because every year since I've moved here, I've bought I've bought the pass, and then I've skied like 2 days because every week I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna ski this week, and then I gotta write a video today. I should probably do some stuff. I'll go next week, and then but before I know it, the ski season's over.
Yeah.
Whereas
I feel
it's
like having to
oh,
plan stuff ahead of time really helps.
Yeah, it's like you made a reservation, and if you skip out on too many reservations, you might lose your pass, or something bad will happen. It's like, I better go.
Like that same situation you're talking about that is more prevalent right now is the reason that I got to go do the green tea ceremony at the Japanese garden, the Botanic Gardens.
Is it because skipped?
Because that stuff gets booked like 6 to 8 months in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no time for me to say, am I going to be busy the weekend of like September 13th a year from now? I don't need to worry about that. I just say, well, that's the only opening. So if I don't do it now, tomorrow it will be gone.
Yeah, I think if you don't get it on the books, you get a book. Like, if you don't get a booked time, then it's so easy to justify not doing it when it comes around. Then you want to do it. Yeah, but if it's there, if it's pre-committed, and especially if there's like somebody else or something else that's sort of holding you to it, you're gonna go do it.
Yeah, it's over and over in life. It seems like any sort of long-term list is where my ideas go to die. Mm-hmm. I need to commit to some tiny fraction of an action for the idea soon, or odds are I won't do it. Maybe I'll get re-inspired later, but more often than not, I've had ideas that just disappear into a note somewhere, in my notes app, and I just never see it again because I didn't take action quickly enough.
I would actually love to see some comments on the YouTube version of this podcast. I'm not gonna make it super hard on you. I'm not gonna tell you have to go do a thing, but I would love to see like what's something that you want to do that you're scared to do, and then what is something that could create a little bit of that pressure. Just an idea, whether it be like, oh, I want to run a marathon, book the marathon. I want to sing, book a vocal lesson, something like that.
Yeah, like
once you've written it out, you can decide whether or not to do it, but you'll know the method that will help you do it.
Yeah, last year wasn't great, and you can't make any guarantees about this year. It's like maybe there's an action you can take that will make it a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a fairly hard stop coming up.
That's fair.
So we should get into our good old cult member questions, so we don't belabor these points too much.
Yeah, let me pull those up. I guess if anybody has any cool, like if they're interested, if y'all are interested in the language thing, let me know if you have any cool things you'd like to see me talk about. It might be the idea that makes the difference between whether or not like I feel like doing it. No pressure, but you could bring up something that I didn't think about. That'd be cool.
Yep.
The first question we've got here is, I've been working from home since March. I'm struggling to switch off from work after a long day because there's no longer a physical commute that separates the two. What are some practical ways to switch between work and home life at the end of the day when you're working from home?
Turn off your computer. Like whatever you can do to disconnect from your work, do it. Log out of accounts. Like if you're in Slack, I mean, you could log out of Slack. You could log out of your email. You could log out of whatever software you're using. And if you don't need your computer anymore, I'm a PC gamer, so I got to keep my computer on because sometimes I play games. But if I don't need it, if I'm not going to play games at night, just turn it off at the end of the workday. Maybe make yourself a quote unquote commute. So end of the workday, okay, that's when I schedule my half-hour walk, which Anna and I need to get back into doing. But that's something that we would like to do every single day is go for a walk. And I've been working out. I don't work out in the morning because I've got a garage gym now, and one friend who's in like my pod of friends comes over, and it's usually in the evening to work out. Well, if that's early evening, that's a good hard stop for work. Go into the garage gym, work out, then I can decompress and hang out at night. But you got to have something real, some kind of real barrier between work and between your personal life. And if it's not a commute, it's something else.
Yeah.
Like what do you do?
Lately, I've been going downstairs, mess around on piano for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, I'd go outside, but I've been finishing my work when it's dark lately. So while I will try to do that, it will come more naturally once the sun stops setting so early.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I mean we're over the hump, right? No, wait.
yeah,
we're
it
not.
should be. I thought
When's
so.
when's
You
the
know what? I don't know. I don't know calendar.
What is it called? The vernal equinox
I don't know when that is.
or the winter solstice? I don't remember what.
They're somewhere.
I
But,
think we're over the hump.
yeah, I'd prefer to like go outside. I do tend to close work apps when I'm done working, and
Yeah.
I have a little notebook, a little like flippy reporter style that flips vertically.
Mm-hmm.
And so on one page, I'll write down what my tasks are for the workday, but on the other side, if I flip it around and look at the back of the last page, I have some personal tasks for the day that I've written down. So I flip the notebook literally so that the work side is now gone.
Oh, there you go.
And that's also cool because I'm like, oh yeah, I had some goals for the day. Let's see what I can do.
Another thing you can do: schedule a call with your mom or your dad, or say you're gonna hop on Discord with friends at a certain time.
Yep.
You know, create
Yeah,
some
I
kind
tend to
of
do that a lot
little
on
social
Monster Hunter.
obligation. Yeah, I mean, I see you on the Discord like most nights now in the Monster Hunter chat, and I don't play Monster Hunter, but I'll get on there. Just
Yeah.
like number one, I want to hang out with my friends, even though we can't hang out in person. And it also just it kind of creates like I'm not working right now. I'm jumping into the Discord with my friends, or I'm gonna play a game with Anna or something. That's
Yeah.
not work.
Yeah, social things help a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't had too much trouble lately with that switch, but I've definitely dealt with it in the past a lot. You know, I know anything that creates some kind of tangible separation, incorporate that into your life. Second cult member question, real simple. What are you guys reading lately?
I've still been reading the last like quarter of that perfectionism book. It's like into super specific case study sort of area now, so I don't feel that pressure to read it quickly. That's kind of it. Honestly, I've been focused on these other ideas, so I haven't been reading a lot of books.
That's fair. And that is When Perfect Isn't Good Enough by, it was Martin Anthony, right?
Yeah, Anthony and then someone else.
That's right.
A paradox.
Wait, a paradox?
Yeah, a pair of doctors.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty nice pun.
Don't get confused.
I was confused. Okay, so I'm reading a couple right now. I am reading a book called Damn Good Advice by George Lois, and I picked that up today. This is a book that you could probably read in an afternoon, but I basically get an insight from every page, take a picture of it to highlight it with Readwise, and then like start writing notes. So it'll probably take me forever to get through it. It's just a bunch of insights from his career as an advertising. I don't even know what to call it. He wasn't like an advertising executive. He was like somebody who actually crafted ad campaigns. Just a bunch of insights about creativity, essentially, from his career. I just found it on the shelf at Barnes & Noble. I honestly went to Barnes & Noble because I wanted to get a book on like painting, and I knew I could just Google it, but I don't know. There's just something like I kind of wanted to have a more analog experience in this. So I went there just to see if I could find a book on painting a room and other DIY projects. And then I just was looking around and found this. So, I've gotten like maybe a quarter into it because it is a quick read. But if you are a creative like I am, I do think it's probably worth your time. It's got a lot of really interesting little bits in there. I don't know. Sometimes something that you've already heard before can be stated in a way or stated with a certain amount of passion, and it can hit you and make you think about like, how can I change my own work? Just one little thing here. He had like this very like quippy line. It's not how short you make it, it's how you make it short. Think long, write short. And it just kind of challenged me to be more concise in my writing than I have been in the past. So I'm applying that to the new video I'm working on. And then at my editor Tony's request, I am reading a book called Creativity Inc., which was written by Ed Catmull, who is one of the co-founders of Pixar. And it's basically a book about kind of how Pixar was built, but a lot of the challenges that they faced along the way in building an organization, and like maintaining creativity as an organization grows. And he kind of writes it from the perspective of him having to become a manager over time. And I don't really want to be a manager, but as somebody who owns a company, I think the insights we can pull from that book will allow whoever is doing the managing to do it better, and also for the organization to be organized better as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
reading
that one.
And so far, I'm finding... What's up?
I'm looking forward to reading that one.
You're going to read it too?
Yep.
Tony bought me a hardcover copy and a Kindle copy. That's how much he wants me to read it. But Tony loves Pixar, so it doesn't surprise me at all. But yeah, so far I'm enjoying that one. I'm not super far into it yet, so I don't have like a total stamp of recommendation on it, but I'm gonna give it a tentative recommendation anyway, because I've pulled some interesting insights from it. But more than that, it is written in an interesting way. And sometimes I'll read a book, and the way the writer writes, Nassim Nicholas Taleb comes to mind here. They write more viscerally. They write with more stories and examples that kind of have bite, or they're funny, or they're interesting, and it just kind of juxtaposes that with all, like, a lot of the other business books I've read and personal development books I've read, because a lot of them, like, they've got good insights, but they're just written in such a straightforward, linear, dry way. And it's a breath of fresh air when you pick up a book that is ostensibly about personal development or creativity or business, but then there's just stuff in there that really stands out. And Creativity Inc. has some of that. Anti-Fragile has some of that. The Damn Good Advice definitely has some of that. He's a creative guy, so it doesn't surprise me. But yeah, those are the books I'm reading. And I think that is going to bring us to the end of this podcast episode. I've got to go eat, and I've got to go do a bunch of work, even though it's Friday.
Oh, it is Friday.
It is Friday.
Well, there it is.
I got to start prepping the basement for painting, which means I need to finish my my floor diagram with measurements so I can get a estimate of how much paint I need to buy. I need to send a bunch of paperwork to my financial advisor. I need to do all kinds of crazy stuff.
All right. Well, I guess we better get to it then.
I'm going to bid you adieu as soon as I do this outro. Thanks, as always, dear listener, for hanging out with us on this episode of the Inforium. What episode is this, Martin?
13, I want to say.
Are we on 13? 312. I think we're on 12. I'm going to guess. You put the number there, so I'm going to guess that it's 12.
You know what? That would...
And the perfectionism one was 11, I think.
Oh, no. It's because of the time me writing down the number 12 made me think we already did it. Look at that. Looks like I'm imperfect today. It is 12.
That's fair. So, if you want to get show notes for this episode, where we will at the very least link to those books that we are reading, you can go over to theinforium.com/12. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Beyond that, if you're over on theinforium.com, you can find out how to subscribe to the show if you haven't done so already. You can do that in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. I think might actually be the biggest one now, like where the most listeners come from. I've been listening to podcasts in an app called Air, AIRR. And the cool thing about Air is if you hear something you like that you want to save, there's a little button that you can hit that will save the last, by default, I think it's 45 seconds, but you can change it to whatever you want, like a minute, minute and a half, whatever, as a sort of air quote. And then you can write a note for it. So it's like a great way to make highlights, essentially, of podcast episodes. And then, like Kindle and like the command browser, it syncs those highlights to Readwise. I'm really starting to like Readwise because it syncs my stuff to Notion. So it's all in there. I can go and write my own thoughts in there, merge my book highlighting with my book note-taking and my writing in general. But wherever you choose to subscribe, thank you if you do. Much appreciated. And I think that is about going to do it for my outro spiel. So thanks again for listening to us, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you.